What's up, people? I'm Mike Rispoli, and welcome back to the LNBE podcast, where LNBE stands for literally nothing but everything. And I literally have nothing to talk about this week, so we'll see how it goes. But if you want to follow me on my socials, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at the LNBE podcast. And also feel free to hit that subscribe button or shoot me a follow on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. And if you want to write in, you can email me at lnbemedia@gmail.com. And with that, let's kind of get into this bitch. So we got 4th of July coming up, and does anybody have any fun 4th of July plans? I honestly have no idea what the hell I'm doing, but if you have any funny stories, feel free to shoot me some, because I don't really have any fun 4th of July stories. The only thing I can think of is when I was back in high school, I went over to my aunt and uncle's house, and we had those rinky-dink fireworks that you could just find at any grocery store or whatever. And the neighbors across the street had the illegals. So they were doing the air show while we were getting the groundwork going. And right before they were about to light a firework, one of the parents just goes, "Hey, Timmy, don't get too close. We don't want you to get burned like you did last year." And it's maybe you should keep that kid on a fucking leash. But off the top of my head, that's really the only 4th of July story I have, because most of the July 4th parties that I've gone to, I've just ended up drinking a vast amount, so I just don't end up really remembering it the next day. Hence why I stopped my drinking habit. But my friend actually probably has one of the best July 4th stories. And just to give some context, after I graduated from Roger Williams University, or if you're going by the acronym RWU, Rich White Underachievers, and if you go to the school, you're part of the butt of the joke like me. And if you didn't go to the school, if you look up the cost, the demographics, and what it takes to get accepted, the numbers will speak for themselves. But anyways, after I graduated, I also lived in Bristol, Rhode Island for a couple years. And for God knows what reason, I'm sure there's a reason, I just never cared to know about it, 4th of July is just the biggest event of the year. I think the parade that they put on is top 5 in the country from what I looked up one time. I could be wrong. Somebody's gonna have to look that up. But it's a huge event. Even the week leading up to 4th of July, they put on these concert shows, and they have food trucks and stuff in one of the local parks in the town. And it's just this massive thing. But going back to what I was initially getting at, my friends actually have probably one of the best 4th of July stories, because they ended up getting engaged on 4th of July. And they're married now, so now I get to refer to them as husband and wife. But the husband's thought process was, she will never expect me to propose on this day during this time. And on top of it, both of their families were also visiting because they're from Long Island, so then they also got to be involved in the proposal. And during the parade, I guess it was a photographer for one of the local papers, and that person ended up taking a photo of them, so they also made the daily paper, which is kind of cool. So talk about a memorable 4th of July experience. But yeah, besides family barbecues and drinking, what really is there to do on 4th of July that you do to celebrate? It's not one of these grand holidays. And plus, if it's shitty weather, really, what is there to do on 4th of July? But my favorite thing about 4th of July is actually the day after 4th of July, where all of the statistics come out, where it's how many people lost a finger or some shit, and they just become another statistic like Timmy. But I guess that's kind of fitting, because the Revolutionary War, there were bombs going off and people were losing limbs. But now, as a way to celebrate, we lose our limbs because we're bombed. Just like how the Founding Fathers intended. But considering 4th of July is when all of the pyromaniacs tend to come out of the woodworks, I hope all of you stay safe, don't do anything stupid, and just enjoy yourselves. It's a free day off from work. What else could we ask for, right? Oh, but here's a random thought. Since we're talking about fireworks now, it's reminding me of Katy Perry because of her song Firework. But I just saw that she put out a teaser for one of her new songs, and I have no idea what it's called. I can't remember. But she put out 2 clips, and in one of the clips, it honestly was verbatim. If anybody remembers the episode of SpongeBob where they were doing the jellyfish rave, the chorus to this new Katy Perry song is verbatim the jellyfish rave song. But then also the Jellyfish Rave song is a ripoff of that song Y'all Ready For This, and I can't remember who the name of that artist is, forgive me. I just remember that it's Y'all Ready For This? Da-na-na-da-da-da. It's that song that you just constantly hear at any sporting event, but I truly think that Katy Perry officially wrote the first AI-generated song that's going to become popular, because even the lyrics just sound like shit. Not that she sounds like shit, the lyrics are just shit from what I heard. And it's just gonna be your standard, typical feminism woke song. But that just seems to be where, music tends to be going now. It's not even a matter of, music anymore. It's just a matter of, what kind of a message can I put out that's not just necessarily gonna resonate with personality. It's just gonna resonate with, what's going on in the political scheme of things. I don't know. I'm just over pop music in general, especially now the fact that they're not even seeming to be trying. I mean, the fact that Katy Perry literally took a song from SpongeBob and was like, "Yep, that's it. We're going to go with it." I don't know. It just seems lazy. Pop music always seems lazy. Even Dua Lipa's song "Break My Heart," that is just a total ripoff of NXS's song "Need You Tonight," and I think that song was actually so similar that she had to give writing credit to NXS as a way to avoid copyright issues. Just so that way she could avoid what happened with Robin Thicke and his song Blurred Lines. Because Robin Thicke essentially took the beat from the song Gotta Give It Up. And I think Marvin Gaye's family ended up suing Robin Thicke because of the copyright issue. So I don't know. I don't know. Everybody samples everything in music. Nothing seems to be as original nowadays. That's why I listen to more rock music. But even rock music songs tend to just be non original. I mean, you can say that the musicianship is, but. Oh, here we go again with this fucking chair. But Danny California by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and then if you listen to Tom Petty's Mary Jane's Last Dance, even though the songs aren't initially the same, it's kind of like the beats are pretty similar, and Danny California is just a little bit more fast of a cadence, but you could see how that would be similar. So actually, maybe this is a new segment idea of, and I know this is like probably all over the internet already, but songs that you think sound the same even though they're by different artists and there was no credit given on either song. And I'm not talking about like Ice Ice Baby and Under Pressure or Sing for the Moment by Eminem and Dream On by Aerosmith because that's already known that it's a sample. I'm talking about songs that are not just sampled, they're just true ripoffs. So if you guys got any other examples, let me know. But since we're talking about one of the most patriotic days in America, I feel like we just got to get this out of the way. Let's talk about the fight night between the two great geriatrics. I mean, let me tell you, it was a battle for the ages. A Metamucil masterpiece. Get it? Get it? Because they're old? I mean, I gotta say, Biden just, to me, he looked like a Simpsons character. I mean, that dude was so fucking pale, I couldn't tell where his hair ended and his forehead started. But I gotta say, when they started talking shit about their golf games and Biden was like, I'm a 6 handicap or I'm an 8 handicap or whatever the fuck he said, I just wish that Trump just looked at him and said, oh yeah, you're handicapped all right. Because it's kind of like me going up to that girl at the bar with her titty out. I just wish that Trump was just like, hey Biden, your dementia is showing. Like, my God. But it's really unfortunate because the talk of the town is just about how Biden just is not with it. And there's really no jokes I can make about Trump. The only thing I could talk about Trump is the fact that he's just crazy, but that's information that we already know. Or maybe the fact that he just tries to act like a thesaurus when he's trying to sound smart. Because at one point he told Biden, he's just like, it's ridiculous, insane, and stupid policy. And it's just like, bro, how many times are you going to try and say the same word in a row? But I gotta say, my favorite part was actually when Biden was just having trouble like stringing two sentences together. And when it was Trump's turn to talk, he just goes, yeah, I gotta be honest, I don't know what he just said, and I don't even think he knows what he just said. It's just like, oh my God. If coherent speaking is now the definition of what can make somebody a president, I feel like that's a bad spot for us to be in. And I know, I'm sorry that I'm talking about politics, and I know everybody's just so over all of it. But it really is something that's important. But I have massive issues with what's going on in our political system right now. And I don't know if it's not something that you care about or you want to care about, but I just feel like I need to talk about it. And honestly, the more and more that I look at RFK, the more and more I'm like, I think this guy's got my vote. And because he did a debate too on the same night as Trump and Biden. Nobody watched it because nobody heard about it, but I've been seeing clips all over TikTok from it. And somebody out there on TikTok is actually fact checking him. And she's proving that this dude only speaks in truths. And you can make jokes about him having a brain eating worm or whatever. But like, in all honesty, it was just a freaking parasite. And given the fact that like microplastics are found in 90% of American men's testicles, I feel like having a parasite is just as common nowadays, given all the other bullshit that we got going on, especially the fact that our food supply is literally being poisoned. I mean, how many fucking E. coli breakouts are we going to have in our fucking food supply? And what's really disgusting is the fact that if you don't know where E. coli comes from, essentially, from what I know, it comes from shit particles. So the people handling our food are not washing their hands. Has nobody fucking watched Seinfeld? There's a whole episode in Seinfeld where Jerry goes out with this girl, and the girl has a father who owns a restaurant, so they go out to the restaurant. Jerry's in the bathroom, and he sees the owner of the restaurant who's making the food come out of the stall and he doesn't wash his hands. So Jerry, when he's ordering the food and it comes out, he's like, yeah, I'm not going to eat this. And it becomes a whole fucking thing. I mean, as Americans, we already know that our food is garbage in comparison to what else is out there in the world. But now it's like they're not even trying to hide it. Plus the fact that Trump was like, oh, we have the best H2O, our H2O was the best under me. And I'm like, okay, well tell that to the fucking people in Flint, Michigan, because they still are dealing with fucking horrible water. But seriously, give RFK a chance. Like, go look at what his policies are, because I actually think he's like the only politician that's trying to run for president who actually seems to give a shit. He talks about the issues and he actually speaks coherently, despite the fact that this man had a fucking brain-eating worm. Every fucking corporation in America, one of the first interview questions is, if you have a problem, how would you solve it? And RFK is out here showing us that he actually knows how to interview, because when he's asked a question, he actually gives a response on how he would solve the problem. Now, hindsight is also 2020, but when he was asked a specific question on how he would have handled something, he goes, here's how I would have handled it. Now, I don't know if that's how he would have handled it in the moment, but at least he looked at what the people in power actually did and what he would have done to fix it given the current situation. And I don't know, I could be totally talking out of my ass here, but the reason as to why I'm comparing the presidency to a job interview is because as a republic, we try to interview our politicians based on what their policies are that they want to put in place, right? So if it adheres to what we want as a country, then we're going to vote them in for that job. And what truly pisses me off is the fact that the RNC and the DNC are constantly putting in politicians to run for president who the majority of people are not happy with. Like, both Biden and Trump have some of the worst poll numbers ever in American history. And it's also like, who the fuck are these people, like, polling? Is it just they're polling the bases? Are they polling everybody? Like, where are these 45, 44% approval numbers coming from on these guys? Because most of the people that I'm talking to hate both of these candidates. So if the general public hates the candidates, why are you forcing these fucking candidates on us? And why are you also not showcasing third-party people that we might actually agree with? Like, it just doesn't make sense why we vote in who we want, but we actually can't vote in who we want because we're only voting in who the RNC and the DNC want, and then based on those two people is who we're actually going to vote in. Like, it's so stupid the way that this political system is running. And it's not a matter of needing more than a two political party system. I don't have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is the fact that the political party system is not actually adhering to the people who we actually might want in office. Now let's put this in perspective here, right? Like, the last two political cycles, the general public wanted Bernie Sanders on the DNC party ticket, right? Like, that was who most of the Democrats wanted as their, like, political candidate. So why the hell did the DNC decide to put in Hillary in 2016 and then Biden in 2020? Knowing that Bernie was who the mass population wanted. Now, granted, all of the people who are going to end up voting for Bernie were just going to end up voting for either Hillary or Biden anyways. So either way, it didn't necessarily matter who the Democrats put in. But why are you not putting in who the people actually want? Like, this whole thing is fucking stupid. So here's what I think we should do to send a message to the general population is we should all just vote third party. And unless you truly pander to Trump or Biden, then put them in as your vote. But if you really don't just vote for the guy because you think it's the lesser of the two evil. Vote in somebody who you actually want to have as president. Send a fucking message to these political systems because we are the ones who are in charge. It's not them. And at the end of the day, the people need to regain control. It's up to the people as a republic to vote in who they want. And if you don't want one of these two jamokes in office, then make it known. And again, I'm sorry if, like, the whole political thing is not your vibe. I just really had to get that off my chest. So that rant's now over. But I hope to God that it didn't totally ruin your weekend. I know that debate was on Thursday. And if you didn't have plans to go out over the weekend, then maybe the debate changed your mind because now you're probably thinking, oh, well, now I need a drink after seeing that. But I hope you had a great weekend. I again found myself at the bar. I was scheduled to help bartend on Friday, which was kind of nice. But it was kind of a dead Friday. It wasn't too crazy. Nothing really ended up happening. Except it was funny. So since I wasn't working the door, we had somebody else working the door. And later on in the night, he comes up to us and he was like, hey, There's going to be a group of 3. There's a girl in the pink shirt. Don't serve her. And we were like, all right, well, why? What's going on? He's like, well, as she was getting out of her Uber, I just saw her puking. So we were like, all right, fair enough. But then what was really funny was when the group came up to the bar, one of them comes up to me and she's asking for a drink. And she just goes, yeah, I just want to get something a little lighter because as we were walking in, I saw somebody puking and I just didn't want it to be me. And I was like, are you sure it wasn't you? Because you're also wearing a pink shirt. But it actually wasn't her. It was her friend, unfortunately. But they were fine. And then one other kid I actually had to cut off because, well, actually, I didn't even serve him because he came at the bar with his card in his hand. I'm like, this kid is at the ready. He's going to know what he wants. I go up to him and I'm like, hey, man, like, what would you like? And he just couldn't tell me what he wanted. He just kept giving me different drink orders. And he was just slurring his words like crazy. And he was like, I'm like, all right, buddy. Like, you are absolutely sloshed. You hit your pregame a little bit too hard, so I'm not serving you. Sorry, pal. And then he just left. But then Saturday, I actually had to go to my friend's birthday party. Happy birthday to you, buddy. And I actually did something that I hadn't done in a little over a year now, which was I had a beer. It was a non-alcoholic beer, but I had a beer. And I was just like, holy shit, did I miss the taste of beer? Because that was my big thing when I was drinking. I was a big whiskey beer guy. I would only drink like brown stuff. I wasn't like too big into rum. I would have a tequila shot on occasion. Actually, what I used to do when I was like pre-gaming before going out, I would switch it up between either tequila or whiskey. But what I would do is I would line up anywhere from 4 to 6 shots, and then I would pour a beer into a glass and line that up at the end. So I would take all the shots and then I would just chug the beer. And this was like in a row. It wasn't like I was doing a shot, hanging out, doing a shot, hanging out. No, I would just fucking line them up, do it all, and then down the beer right in the end. And then I would go out to the bar and have whatever the fuck else I was going to have over there. So it's really not a wonder as to how it all ended up catching up with me. But my buddy actually had the Athletic Brewing Company beers at his party. And he was like, hey, do you want a beer? I was like, hey, I don't drink. Well, he's like, no, I got these non-alcoholic ones. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because I hadn't had beer in forever. And I was just like craving a beer because I used to just love beer. And I gotta say, those Athletic Brewing Company beers are fucking awesome. The IPAs I thought were a little bit better. And I'm not an IPA guy, I never really was. But the IPAs actually had like a little bit more flavor to them. They weren't as like dull. So those were actually fantastic. So to the people out there in the sober community like I am, or at least maybe California sober, check out the Athletic Brewing Company if you're really just kind of craving a beer. And no, I'm not saying this because I'm sponsored by them. I'm not big enough to get sponsored. I've only got fucking 50 followers here. But I'm saying this out of the goodness of my heart and as a pro tip to all of you non-drinkers out there if you're just craving something new. Because literally after a year of only drinking club sodas, and I don't drink normal soda, I just got rid of that habit because of health reasons. So after a year of only drinking club soda, I was just like really starting to crave something different. Even the flavored seltzers, after a while, I was just like, dude, this just is not cutting it, man. Like, I just need something different. Kind of like when you're working out and you're getting bored of your routine, you just need something else just to kind of help spice it up. That was exactly what I was going through when it came to my choice of beverage. And actually, what I thought was amazing was the fact that if I was going to be drinking some of these non-alcoholic beers, I was going to be expecting to get some sort of buzz, but that wasn't the case. It was kind of no different than drinking just a normal flavored drink. But then Saturday night, I ended up going out to a bar, hang out with a friend, and while we were at the bar, and this tells you how fucking hard it is in dating life as a single person, because actually, I went out with Ella, and she was outside talking to some woman, and she was just like, hey, like, I found somebody who I think you might be interested in. I was talking to her. She seemed pretty cool. So I was like, oh, well, which one is she? And she points, and I'm like, oh, she's attractive. All right. So Ella introduces us, and as I'm trying to have just a normal conversation with this woman, it wasn't like I was even trying to hit on her. I was just trying to have a conversation, just get a vibe for her, see how she feels. And her friend just gets in between us and just goes, we don't know you. And I'm like, all right, well, what the fuck? So, talk about a fucking cock block. I ended up having to walk away from that. And then as the night progressed, I see that there was this dude that was just way animated. I don't know if he was drunk, if he was on something else, but something was up with him. And he goes over to them, and you can kind of see that, like, they were a little bit uncomfortable. So I was like, all right, well, now here's my second chance. So I kind of get in between them. I start making like conversation again. So now I'm the cock block to this guy, but I'm just like, hey, I feel like it would be a safer situation if they're talking to me than him trying to like talk to them, because I don't know what this dude was on. And the woman was just like, oh, thank you. I really appreciate you like stepping in and taking care of that, because the dude just went away once he saw me. And I could tell that because she was super uncomfortable with that guy, I was just like, hey, like, are you okay? And she was just like, yeah, no, this just really isn't my vibe. So then I'm now trying to get a sense of her, like, oh, well, like, what kind of vibe do you like? Like, what's your typical night out? Like, what do you like to do? But as it turns out, not all heroes end up getting the girl, because then the girl, like, after 30 seconds was just like, all right, this was fun. And she just walked away. And I'm just like, is it me? It's got to be fucking me. Like, what did I do? But hey, I guess you can't win them all, right? Yeah, they say that there's plenty of fish in the sea, but apparently I'm that fucking whale out there that has a too low of a frequency so no other whales can communicate with it. So that's me. That's where I stand out in my dating life currently. I mean, if you're not on a dating app, how hard is it to actually try and date somebody or like meet somebody? Like, is it just me that has this problem or is it everybody else? Because I'm not on dating apps. I refuse to kind of go on dating apps. But the more and more that I strike out at a bar, I'm like kind of veering back to this idea that maybe a dating app isn't a bad idea and I try it again. But I'm just like, I just can't stomach the thought of it. Actually, you know what? If I have any female listeners out there, please give me some tips on what I can do to start hitting dingers and stop striking out. Because if I'm trying to pick up women, I feel like women know women. So if I have any lady listeners, give me some tips and tricks and I'll try them and I'll let you know if they work or not. But alright, on that note, I know this might be a little bit of a shorter episode, but I'm gonna let you guys go. I hope you all have a great 4th of July weekend, and please feel free again to follow me on my socials. You can find me at the LNBE Podcast on both TikTok and Instagram. Oh, and something I forgot to mention earlier is I'm also on YouTube at the LNBE Podcast. And if you want to write in to me, you can find me at lnbemedia@gmail.com. Alright guys, I hope you all have a fantastic week, and I will catch up with you next Tuesday. Have a good one.